My name is Michael Turner, and for a long time, that name meant absolutely nothing to me. It was just a label, a faded signature on police reports, a cold record that I myself never had the courage to face. What really mattered wasn't who I said I was, but what I had become. Over the years, I built a version of myself that didn't feel, didn't hesitate, and didn't think twice before hurting someone. It was as if a shadow had taken up residence within me, growing silently, occupying every space, until no light remained. I robbed as easily as breathing. I entered stores, cars, or houses with the same ease as someone turning the corner to go to work. Nothing seemed real. The people in front of me were just obstacles between what I wanted and what I could take. I didn't hear pleas. I didn't see tears. I didn't recognize lives. There was only action, escape, and an inner silence that I learned to transform into strength. At least that's what I believed. But the truth is, I was destroying myself into such tiny pieces that I didn't even realize it. With each crime, each threat, each terrified look I ignored, something inside me died, and I thought that was evolution. I thought coldness was power. I thought insensitivity was protection, until I realized it was just emptiness. The reality is that my death didn't begin the moment my body fell or the blood started flowing. It began much earlier, when I killed the last part of myself that was still trying to resist. What happened afterward was simply the inevitable outcome of a lifetime of choices I chose not to face. And it's strange to think about it now, but the moment everything spiraled out of control, I finally understood. Nobody runs away forever. One day, what you fear most finally catches up with you. And at that moment, it doesn't matter who you were. All that matters is the truth you've spent your life avoiding. If these first words have already made you reflect, stay with me here. Subscribe and leave a like. Before we continue, because what comes next reveals truths that no one can ignore when they finally hear them. Let's go together. After accepting who I had become, I threw myself into that life as if it were the only place where I could still breathe. I, Michael Turner, believed I had found my own kind of freedom in the chaos. The street was my territory, and every corner seemed to acknowledge my presence. Money came in as quickly as I spent it, and nothing gave me a greater sense of power than seeing people's faces harden when I passed by. It wasn't respect, it was fear. But at that time, I couldn't tell the difference between the two. The adrenaline was addictive. I felt my whole body throb whenever I got on a motorcycle with my face covered or pointed a gun at someone who barely understood what was happening. It was as if every beat of my heart became proof that I was above any rule, above any limit. I convinced myself that no one could catch me, that I was too fast, too smart, too cold. I wore criminality as if it were armor that made me untouchable. The truth, however, is that I was trapped in an illusion. The feeling of power was just a distraction, a lie that kept me blind while my own soul was drained little by little. The more I achieved in the streets, the more I lost inside. And the further I distanced myself from any trace of humanity, the more I believed I was rising. Deep down, I was sinking, but the fall was so slow that I didn't notice. The strangest thing is that on the outside, I seemed to be thriving. I had access to everything I ever wanted: easy money, influence in the right places, partners who called me by name as if I were someone important. I confused movement with progress, speed with direction, noise with life. And while the world around me filled with dark opportunities, I felt invincible, as if nothing could bring me down. But life has a silent way of preparing us for falls we never imagined. And while I was celebrating what I thought was a victory, something was approaching without me realizing it. A limit I didn't know existed, a moment I couldn't avoid. And when he arrived, I finally understood that it wasn't the world chasing after me. It was the trial. Over time, the adrenaline stopped being just a sensation and became sustenance. I needed it to feel alive, and it was this hunger that led me to the moment that changed everything. I remember that night as if I were watching from afar, as if I were another person living that scene. It was supposed to be just another robbery, one of those quick, clean, and silent ones that I did without thinking. But nothing that night was silent inside. When I looked at a man trembling before me, I felt something different. Not compassion, not guilt, just an emptiness even greater than I was used to. He wasn't a threat. He wasn't someone who could fight back. There was nothing that justified the brutality I carried in my hands. For the first time, I realized the magnitude of the darkness I had created within myself, and yet I moved forward. My finger pulled the trigger before I could think twice. The shot echoed like a sentence, and the sound pierced his chest and mine at the same time. The man's body fell, but something inside me fell with it. And unlike him, I didn't have the courage to admit it. The silence that followed wasn't the silence of the street. It was the silence of the soul. A kind of heavy, suffocating silence, as if God had turned his face away at that instant. I should have stopped there. I should have breathed, stepped back, understood what was happening inside me. But I did the opposite. I silenced the inner voice that was trying to reach me. And when I decided to ignore it, something broke completely. From that moment on, there was no turning back. My conscience, previously only wounded, became mute. And when the conscience is silent, something else speaks in its place. It was that night that I realized I was no longer in control of my life. It was as if a dark force had found space within me and from there, guided me without my realizing it. I thought I was just hardening, but in truth I was opening a door that should never have been touched. And whatever passed through that door never wanted to leave again. After that night, something changed within me in a way I couldn't reverse. My first reaction was to try not to think about what I had done, as if silence could erase the memory. But the opposite happened. The more I tried to forget, the further I became from any remaining trace of humanity. Gradually, without realizing it, I began to accept the darkness as a natural part of my routine. I no longer saw faces. I only saw movement. I no longer saw lives. I saw objects. And the further I distanced myself from who I once was, the more I believed that this distancing was strength, not death. I became someone who wouldn't blink at the sight of others suffering. If someone trembled before me, I interpreted it as weakness. If someone cried, I found it irritating. My heart seemed to harden with every decision I made, but I didn't feel the weight of it. It was as if I had lost the right to feel anything. And for a time, I believed that this made me invincible. Today, I know it was the opposite. When the heart stops feeling, it doesn't grow stronger. It dies inside, inch by inch, until it turns to stone. And so it was, in this slow process of dehumanization, that I began to get used to the idea that nothing had real value. Neither my life, nor the lives of others. Indifference became my only way of existing. I walked the streets like someone without a face, without purpose, without destiny. Sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize who was there. And even so, I kept going as if it were normal. But life always demands what we think we've buried. And my indifference was about to come back to haunt me in the most brutal way possible. Because while I believed I had killed my emotions, the truth is I had only silenced the last voice that was trying to save me. And when that voice finally fell silent, the world came to collect all its due at once. The indifference that took hold of me transformed me into someone who feared nothing anymore. I lived as if it were impossible to fall, impossible to be caught, impossible to pay for what I did. And perhaps it was precisely this feeling of invincibility that led me to the night when everything changed. I remember the smell of the hot asphalt, the lights passing by too fast, the engine vibrating as if trying to keep up with the accelerated rhythm of my heart. I had just come out of a robbery that, for me, was just another one. Another wallet, another watch, another life marked, and another piece of myself lost along the way. But this time, something was different. The street seemed narrower, the sirens seemed closer, and the darkness of the early morning seemed to carry something too heavy to ignore. Still, I pressed harder. The speed gave me the feeling that I could escape everything. The police, the problems, the guilt I pretended not to have. But you can't escape yourself. and I would find that out a few seconds later. As I turned the corner, I heard the dry crack of a gunshot. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who fired. I don't know if it was meant for me or just another sound lost in the early morning. I only know that the impact hit me like lightning. I felt something warm running through my chest, and my arms instantly lost their strength. The steering wheel slipped from my hands and the car seemed to take on a life of its own. It spun, slid, and crashed into something I couldn't see. Everything blended into a confusion of lights, metallic noises, and a lack of control. And then, silence. A silence so profound it seemed to swallow the entire world. It wasn't the silence of the street. It was the silence that comes when the body gives up, but the soul still hasn't understood what happened. In that instant, I felt the air escape as if it were being pulled away from me. My eyes began to darken at the edges, and I realized that something inside me was shutting down. And while I was trying to understand what was happening, a truth hit me harder than the gunshot. I was finally paying the price for the life I chose. Not with prison, not with loss, but with my very existence. And it was in this absolute void that something unexpected began to happen. Something that no amount of escape could prevent. When the car finally stopped, I can't say if it was from the impact, the gunshot, or the end of my strength. I only remember the sensation of everything slowing down at once, as if the world had pressed an invisible button that gradually shut down each sense. The smell of smoke mixed with blood seemed distant, almost irrelevant, and the weight of my body became light. So light that I no longer knew where my body ended and nothingness began. It was then that I felt something strange, as if I were being pulled back out of myself, as if the air escaping from my lungs carried my consciousness along with it. Suddenly I opened my eyes, but not the eyes of my wounded body. It was different. I was standing outside, looking at myself trapped in the car seat, hunched over, motionless, my chest rising and falling weakly and unevenly. My first reaction was to try to touch myself, but my hand passed through my own shoulder as if I were made of light or mist. That made me recoil in a way I had never recoiled from anything in my life. For the first time, I was afraid of myself. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't touch the ground. The asphalt seemed distant, as if I were suspended between two worlds, trapped in a space that obeyed no rules I knew. The feeling was of being too alive to die, but too dead to return. And this realization hit me harder than the accident. It was as if I were seeing the truth for the first time, a truth I had always avoided. My life had reached its limit and I no longer had control over anything. The scariest thing was realizing I wasn't alone. There was a presence around me, something that didn't come from the street, or the car, or the physical world. It was as if a door had been opened, and something was slowly crossing that threshold, like someone observing before entering. And when that presence drew closer, I understood that what was about to happen could never be called a coincidence. The approaching presence had no defined form, but carried such a real weight that it seemed to push the air around me. It was as if reality itself was adjusting to receive something I was unable to fully comprehend. The light didn't come from above or from any specific point, but from all directions at once, enveloping everything with a serene and irresistible intensity. At first I thought it was delirium, a last flash of my mind trying to fight against death. But the closer that presence got, the more I understood that it wasn't imagination. It was consciousness. It was truth. Suddenly, the light took shape, and I knew, without anyone explaining it to me, who was before me. It wasn't the figure from the paintings I'd seen in religious houses, nor the gentle image many people describe. The one standing before me carried authority, justice, holiness, and a silence capable of exposing everything I had hidden for years. It was Jesus, and before him, for the first time I felt all my masks crumble effortlessly. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't lie. His gaze pierced through everything I was, every lie I told, every crime I committed, every choice I made to hurt someone who only wanted to live in peace. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't make a direct accusation. He showed no indignation. He just looked at me. And in that look, I saw my entire life displayed without any distortion. It was as if all the intentions behind every action were exposed to me. I condemned myself before he said a word. His presence didn't provoke fear through threat, but through truth. I felt within myself everything I had spent years trying to hide. The evil I had committed, the coldness I had embraced, the pride I had carried as a shield. In that instant, I knew that nothing I had done could be justified. All the stories I had told myself crumbled at once, and I realized I was facing the judgment I had tried to avoid my entire life. But before I could fully grasp the weight of that encounter, something began to form around us, as if a new dimension was about to open up, one that would reveal everything I never wanted to face. As that new dimension began to open up around us, I felt as if the ground disappeared and I was pulled into something not of this world. There was no fire, no monsters, no visible screams. All that existed was a living, deep darkness that seemed made of consciousness and memory. It was as if every part of that place had been shaped by human choices, and I knew immediately that nothing there had been created by accident. It was consequence. It was result. It was harvest. The darkness began to move, and from it emerged faces I recognized without a doubt. Faces I had tried to forget, people I had hurt, lives I had scarred with the terror of my coldness. Each face carried something I had never seen while I was alive, the real impact of my choices. They weren't just victims, they were interrupted futures, broken destinies, stories ripped away before their time, and I saw it all as if I were reliving each fragment again. The woman I made faint when I pointed the gun at her son, the man who begged to go home. The young woman was trembling as she handed me the bag. The child I haven't forgotten even though I've tried. I saw them there, not as memories, but as spiritual truths, and each one weighed more than any physical pain I had ever felt. There was no escaping what was before me. It was impossible to deny. Jesus said nothing at first. He simply let me see. He simply allowed me to understand. Only then did his gaze meet mine, and he spoke with a voice that needed no force to be definitive. You didn't just steal objects. You stole paths. You touched lives that didn't belong to you, and every destiny you interrupted, heaven saw. Those words pierced my soul like blades of light. There was no hatred, no revenge, no human accusation. There was truth, a truth so pure that it destroyed all the justifications I had built up throughout my life. I realized I wasn't seeing punishment. I was seeing the reflection of my own decisions. And as I struggled to bear the weight of that revelation, something unexpected began to happen. The darkness slowly receded as if the scene were being pulled away from me. And before I understood why, I felt my spirit being drawn back to a familiar place, a place I never imagined revisiting. When I felt my spirit being pulled from that darkness, there was no warning, no smooth transition. It was like being ripped from a deep dive and thrown back to the surface with no air in my lungs. It all happened in a single instant. The images of the faces I had seen began to fade, dissolving like smoke carried by the wind, while the light that had surrounded me diminished until it became tiny, distant points. And then suddenly, I heard a sound I hadn't heard in a long time, my own heart struggling to beat. The first breath I took wasn't natural, nor calm. It was rough, irregular, as if the air were being forced into a body that no longer wanted to be inhabited. I opened my eyes and saw the white ceiling of a hospital, bright lights and hurried voices all around me. My chest burned, my body trembled, and the only thing I could do was cry. It wasn't physical pain. It was the weight of what I had seen, of what I couldn't pretend no longer existed. When I finally managed to speak, the first word that came out of my mouth was forgiveness. Not because someone was asking it of me, but because I knew I needed to start there. Each tear that fell carried not superficial regret, but the certainty that I had destroyed far more than I imagined. I couldn't go back in time to undo what I had done, but I could decide what I would do with what remained. After I was discharged from the hospital, the first thing I did was reach out to as many people as I could, not to ease my conscience, but because I knew I needed to acknowledge every wound I had caused. Sometimes I was met with silence, other times with anger, a few times with tears. But in every situation, I felt that this was the road I had to travel, even if it was long and full of scars. And as I took my first steps in this new life, I realized something I had never understood before. A true second chance isn't about breathing again. It's about becoming conscious again. And this awareness carried a purpose that I did not yet fully understand. After everything I've been through, I understood that the second chance I received wasn't a prize, nor a gesture of consolation, nor a sign that I was worth more than the people I hurt throughout my life. On the contrary, I understood that it had been a warning so clear, so direct, and so impossible to ignore that even now, after so much time, I still feel as if eternity has marked my soul with something that can never be erased. Every image I saw, every face that appeared before me while my spirit wandered between this world and the other, every silent word I heard without sound, but with a clarity that no human voice can achieve. All of this continues to echo within me, as if it had been engraved in the deepest part of my being. Today, I understand that no one lives with impunity. No one can hide forever. No one builds a path of destruction without that same path one day turning against them with the precision of an infallible truth. Human justice can fail. People's memories can fail. The structure of this world can fail. But eternity does not fail. What we do when no one is watching becomes exactly what will one day be revealed when all eyes are opened. I return to this world with the unwavering certainty that eternity is real, that there comes a point of no return, and that the choices I made, not just the actions but also the intentions, the motivations, the desires I secretly nurtured, would lead me to a destiny that could not be erased by belated apologies or hasty regret. What I did was recorded not on paper but in a place that accepts no erasures. My life lay before me like a book I myself had written, and which I could never edit. I'm not telling this story to appear repentant in order to elicit pity, nor to seek understanding from those who didn't witness what I went through. I'm not telling it to seem like an example of transformation, because I know that nothing erases the past I've built. I'm telling it because I understood that what I saw wasn't just about me. It was about all those who walk through life believing that there will always be more time, more opportunities, more possible excuses to justify what they know is wrong. I'm telling it because I know that someone listening to this now might be going down the exact same path I followed. A path where conscience has been silenced, where the heart has been hardened, where evil has become routine, and where the idea of God has become something distant, almost irrelevant. Perhaps you've already felt this. Change within yourself. Perhaps you've ignored small warnings, small anxieties that arise before sleep, small discomforts that appear when you're alone with your thoughts. Perhaps you've learned to silence this discomfort, saying it's an exaggeration, that it's paranoia, that it's just tiredness, but it's not. This discomfort is exactly what I lost when I started to destroy myself. And when it disappears completely, it's a sign that we are much further from the light than we imagine. It does matter what you do. It matters what you think when no one knows. It matters what you plan in secret. It matters the kind of person you are becoming while you think no one is paying attention. Every attitude, every thought, every seemingly small action, every unconfessed intention, all of this builds something in the invisible. And on the day that eternity opens before you, and that day comes for everyone, what you have built will be shown exactly as it is. There will be no makeup, no justification, no room to reverse the order of events or manipulate perception. The truth will be whole, and it will be yours, only yours. If you are hearing my voice now, do not ignore this warning. Do not treat this as an interesting story, as a different account, or as content that merely sparks curiosity. What I am saying has weight because I felt that weight crushing what remained of me when I realized that the fate I was about to reap was exactly the fate I myself had chosen for years. And, I say this with all sincerity, there is still time to turn back. There is still time to look inward, to shed the excuses, to admit what you try to bury, to seek the forgiveness that I had to face so harshly. Eternity waits for no one. It doesn't postpone encounters. It doesn't give justifications to anyone. When it arrives with the whole truth. But while there is life, there is mercy. And mercy can only be embraced while the heart still beats. If this story touched something within you, whether it's fear, discomfort, reflection, regret, or simply the feeling that there's something wrong that you no longer want to carry, then don't ignore it. That feeling is proof that God is still calling you. Comment now. I choose the truth. And if you want to continue hearing messages that awaken, confront, and transform, subscribe to the channel right now. You didn't get here by chance, and your life doesn't have to continue down the dark path I've known. There's still time, and God is telling you this right now.